At this point, you understand the admissions process, how universities evaluate your application. You understand yourself, your strengths, weaknesses, and what you want in a school. And you understand the schools, primarily how you fit, as well as their admission requirements. Now, we're going to go through the 8 pieces of your application one by one. As a reminder, those 8 pieces are the application form, the academic documents, test scores, the essay, letters of recommendation, school forms, your activity list and/or resume, and then finally, other requirements. In week 1, we discussed the idea of a holistic evaluation of your application. Remember that admission is never about one piece, although some pieces are in fact more important than others. It's about what your pieces say about you and how they answer those 2 important questions. Will this student be academically successful? And is this student a good fit for our school? While it's never about one piece, it is important to understand the role that each piece will play in your admission decision. And each piece does have a unique role in the evaluation process. As a reminder, an entire section of the admission officer interviews is how they review applications piece by piece. If you have not already watched the full interviews, you should be sure to watch them this week. For each piece we will discuss, we have 4 goals. Understand the requirement, know how to submit the requirement, recognize how the piece is used, and consider the timing that's related to the piece. Going into this discussion, you should keep a couple of things in mind. First, admission counselors are not mean-spirited ogres with giant deny stamps waiting to crush the dreams of students everywhere. In fact, it's just the opposite. Admission counselors want to accept students. It's their happy but difficult job to fill their university with the best students. When reading your application, admission officers build an idea of who you are so that they can figure out if you are one of their best students. The question is, what pieces are you giving them to build with? Second, admission counselors read a lot of applications. As an example, when you combine the freshman and transfer applications received by UCLA last year, they totaled over 99,000 applications for admission. 99,000. A saying that you will often hear in an admission office is that admission is an art, not a science. That means that every application is read and appropriately reviewed by a person, not a computer. So each of those 99,000 applications was carefully reviewed by a UCLA admissions representative. With admission being an art and not a science, it also means that admission counselors have a lot to read and not a lot of time to read it. On average, an admission officer will spend about 20 minutes reviewing your application. Now, this is an average, but realize that months of your work are going to come down to a process that takes only minutes. Not only do you have to give admission counselors the right pieces to build with, but your pieces also need to deliver a clear, direct message, and they need to deliver that message quickly. So for each individual piece and for your application as a whole, keep some questions in mind. How are you answering the two big questions? What strengths have you identified, and how will you highlight your strengths within your application pieces? What weaknesses have you found, and how will you address those weaknesses within your application? What themes about who you are do you want to establish throughout the pieces of your application? And are you delivering your messages clearly, directly, and quickly? Finally, you started to create an application plan. Each one of these pieces that we're going to discuss needs to have a place on your application plan. Have your planning calendar ready so that you can add each piece to your plan as we discuss it. Now, we're ready to talk about the pieces.